a brief view of American literature, TC Cars, some questions regarding chapter 3. This one is about Thomas Jefferson and the fact that in the end of his life he freed his slaves, and he did it just in the end of his life, even though he defended freedom, right? He was the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence. So the question is, was he hypocritical? Right? Is that hypocrisy? Writing about freedom and having slaves. Well, I think there are some questions around and underlying this question that are more interesting than the question itself. Why do I say so? When we come to the area of was he wrong because he did that or he did this, and morally judging others, I think there are two ways of morally judging others. One is focusing on the person, and the other focusing on the actions. If the question is focusing on the person, I think that's a very, how can I say, non-productive kind of question. Why? Because I don't know about Thomas Jefferson. I don't know. Maybe he felt sorry and cried every night. Maybe he didn't realize he had slaves. Maybe he had a mental problem that he couldn't relate the freedom of the United States with the freedom of slaves. That's too vague. We're trying to enter a person's mind. Okay? And maybe there was a strategy, and he thought that he would not free his slaves, so he would get power and then free his slaves, and etc. and etc. and etc. We are here, guys, in the realm of mere, how can I say, mere wandering. We're just wandering in the imaginary world, right? Maybe if we were a writer, and then we wrote a fiction, a novel about Thomas Jefferson, and then we put that in real terms, then it would be interesting, the kind of internal dilemmas and etc. and etc. and etc. Okay, so this is the first thing. That I don't think it's a very productive question to think about that. Because again, I could create millions of hypotheses, right? I don't know, maybe his wife made him, have slaves. Maybe, maybe you won't get anywhere with all of those maybes. Okay, so that's to say, probably you're telling me, that I cannot reproach the guy. And okay, so it's like if you have slaves, it's your conscience, right? Maybe Tiago has a slave for a reason, so I'm not going to criticize Tiago because he had slaves. That's not the point. The point is, actions are reproachable. Okay, what Thomas Jefferson did, or his conscience, this is between him and God. All right. What I'm saying is it reproachable to have slaves? That's an interesting question. And of course the answer is, it is reproachable to have slaves. It's against dignity, and etc. and etc. and etc. Okay? So I think that's the first point, I don't know. For example, there is a guy, there is somebody who, I live in a small village, right? And there is somebody who committed a horrible crime. and I don't know, this guy raped a woman, and I know there is a chance this guy will do that again. There are three things I could do in relation to this fact. The first one is, why did he do it? Maybe he was abused when he was a child. Maybe the pressure of society made him do it. Maybe, I don't know, it was the booze. Maybe, okay. That's the job of fiction, right? Second approach to the question. Was it something reproachable? Yes, it is. Regardless the person. Okay? So I don't know if you realize here, what I'm trying to show you is that we should avoid this kind of approach that says that the truth is just inside of your head. In Thomas Jefferson's head, it's right to have slaves, and in this guy's head it's justifiable that he raped a woman, so maybe he has some reason. We just have access to one reality, that is the reality that we see. Of course, the reality we see is made more complex by the contact we have with other people, and by the reality itself, that each time makes itself more and more complex, okay? So again, I'm not saying that you should be closed in your mind and say, no, I'm the only one who is right, I'm saying that your ideas should be out there fighting with the other ideas, so that the best idea can win. But what I'm saying is, again, this idea of maybe he did because of that reason, and therefore this is not reproachable, this is absurd, I have some moral standards. Of course they are biased by history, by what I have learned. It doesn't matter. This is the only one I have, And denying my sense of what is right and what is wrong, it's like trying to be absent, from the world, and pretending I'm not within the world, even though I am within the world, right? Okay, so that's to say that trying to enter his mind is much more the field of a fiction. Having the moral standards, right, of what is right and what is wrong is your responsibility, regardless what other people have in their minds. If maybe they have an idea that raping is right, they're going to tell you, and if that idea is based on the truth, on reality, then he's going to convince you. But until then, raping is wrong, and what he did was horrible. Okay? And I have to believe that with all of my strength, because this is the only truth I have. Okay? So, should I judge his actions? Of course I should judge his actions, because if I don't judge his actions, then I can just stop judging mine, because, for some people raping is right, for some people having slaves is right, so it kind of doesn't matter. That's, So again, I'm not trying to enter the reasons why he did it. I'm talking about the action itself. Okay? And that, guys, regardless point of history, regardless culture, regardless universe, we had a contact with an alien, and in this alien society, the males rape the females, and that's quite normal. Regardless of that, you have just one way of seeing the world, and it's your way of seeing the world. You may make your way of seeing the world more complex, but that's just your way, and it's always going to be one. If you don't have one way of seeing the world, if you have two ways of seeing the world, then you are indecisive. I don't know if raping is right or wrong, could be right, depend, you got it? So yes, regardless time, we should judge actions. Okay, but then what is the conclusion about, let's imagine there is a society where everybody, it's the habit of everybody raping their women. So, and then there's this guy who does exactly the same thing as all the other people. What am I going to, how I'm going to deal with that fact? Oh, so it's normal. No, I'm going to judge the entire society. The entire society is cruel. It's absurd. You know, oh no, but in the context of that society, you know, in the structure of that society, it makes sense. It may make sense there, but I know better, you know. But then maybe you're looking at me, oh, you're saying that your culture is better than the others. I'm saying that I have to try to get a better culture, you know. Maybe I'm not in a more advanced culture, but I have to try to see the best culture. So if I look at a culture and they're doing something savage, as for example, in one of our tribes, if I'm not wrong, they bury children alive when they're born twins, you know? If I look at that, of course I have to judge that culture. That entire culture is cruel. Oh, but Mary buried her child alive because, you know, in the entire culture everybody did that. Okay, she is you know, inserted in that society. That's going to be her problem with God. You know, it's going to be between her and between she and God, right? That's her problem. But what I have to say is that's a cruel institution, as the whole slavery was a cruel institution. Period. All right. Again, I don't know what went on in Thomas Jefferson's head, right? But I know for sure that, at least in that aspect, the entire American society was savage. Okay? Look, and if you got a sense of pleasure when I said that the entire American society in that aspect was savage, but you didn't get the same pleasure when I said that that tribe, you know, that buries their children alive when they're born twins, are savage, you kind of got revolted because I'm not respecting other cultures, then you're having two standards, and then you have a big problem, my friend. Okay? Again, if I am able to judge a culture like the United States, I'm able to judge any Indian culture. Okay? Of course, I'm not saying that I should judge a culture superficially and then get my conclusions. You know, they don't wear clothes, I wear clothes, so, you know, they are they are perverts, right? They're perverts, sorry. They're perverts. Because they don't wear clothes. That's not the point. Of course, I have to try to understand what is going on inside the culture. But that doesn't mean that just because I'm inside the culture, I'm going to forget my culture. Again, you have access to one truth only. Okay, so that's the second point, or the third point. No, it was the second point. The third point is, let's imagine Thomas Jefferson is a hypocritical. Let's imagine we can enter his head. Let's imagine we are a great novelist, right? Thomas Mann does that, you know? So you have this guy that is a hypocritical, and he looks at you and says, look, this mouse is black. He's a liar, okay? He's a liar. He's a liar. He's a liar, dishonest. He beats up his wife, and I don't know, he rapes kids, you know? He's a horrible person. He looks at you and says, this mouse is black. And you are going to look at the mouse and say, I'm not going to fall for that, you know? You're a liar. You rape kids. This mouse is not black, you know? Okay. Of course, you're thinking, no, that example is absurd, right? Of course, the mouse is black. Okay, let's imagine this same guy says, look, you have to respect your wife. You shouldn't lie to your wife. You should worry about her needs. But he's a wife beater. Okay? And then what are you going to do? You're going to look at that and say, do you think I'll believe you? You're a wife beater. Of course I don't have to respect my wife. Of course I have to lie to my wife. Because if I follow that logic, what should I do? Once I know the guy is a hypocritical, I should not accept the truth he's defending because he's a hypocritical. No, the truth is the truth. You know, again, if he beats his wife, it's his relation. It's between him, you know, it's between he and God. You know, that's between, you know, it's his conscience. right? That's not of my concern. I just have one conscience. Remember I told you we just have one vision. I just have one conscience to worry about, which is my conscience. That's the only one I have to worry about. Why am I telling you this? Because even if Thomas Jefferson was hypocritical, right? That doesn't mean that the freedom of a country is not desirable, and etc. and etc. Okay, of course, I'm not working in the question of did America have the right to claim independence, and etc. That's not the point. But let's get here for our purposes that it's right for the United States to get their independence. So it doesn't matter if he had slaves. It doesn't matter if he didn't believe in freedom. It doesn't matter. The action, remember, I'm judging the action of bringing freedom to a people, right? The action of writing a document praising freedom, that's a good action. And I'm going to believe the action, not the man.